Well, one of my writers is actually here. He's right over there. Reed, Sergeant Sausage Pants.
It's all the internet.
Thank you. I've been waiting for someone to be able to say that into a microphone.
It's a great name. Write it down,
Sergeant Sausage Pants.
Anyway, he reads Ultimate X-Men, and he was telling us how, I guess, does anyone read it? I don't want to spoil it for you. Have you read the latest issue?
No, but it's okay. Spoil it.
Okay. Apparently, the Ultimate North Star dies, and I believe this is North Star's 4th death in the Marvel Universe. And it was kind of like a blow to us, you know, we're like, well, he's our only mainstream kind of gay character, and he's kind of never really kissed anyone or shown holding hands, and they're killing him off again, you know. And Reed just wrote this article just basically telling Marvel, like, I dare you to have him kiss someone within the year, or else I'm calling him out as a fake. Which I fully support it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we actually have buttons for that, don't we?
Free swag.
Yeah. And Jim McCann over at Marvel was kind enough to kind of work the situation with us and get Marvel's perspective on things. And it was just great. It's like one of the biggest, you know, publishers contacting us to help us understand their perspective. And in the end, things worked out well. Like, we kind of saw what they were working towards, and all was, well, not all was forgiven, but we kind of reached a mutual understanding. But yeah, that was the incident.
They suck.
Sorry for spoiling for you.
But he still hasn't gotten kissed.
No, he still has not.
So even if he's, well, I'm not gonna spoil him. I'm not gonna spoil him, just in case. But you know, he still hasn't been kissed. Maybe in his coffin.
That's a compliment.
That does not count. Does not count. That won't count.
Yes. So Ariel, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry you had foot traffic problems.
It's very difficult to get in.
Yes, and we're so glad you're here. I wanted to ask you a little bit about, you're kind of doing, kind of moving between two worlds with the comics work and television work. And I wanted to ask you, and I imagine it was very different writing your memoir books because you were writing them kind of, not in isolation, but you were doing them for yourself and you didn't have to really answer to anybody for them. And in television, I imagine it's not quite that way. But were the processes similar at all? How can you compare and contrast them for us and let us know what it's like?
Well, I think that comics writing and writing for episodic television is similar in that you're telling like an ongoing story. And so I really liked being able to take what I'd learned from telling stories, and, you know, because my high school comics, it's basically one long epic story that starts in 9th grade and ends in 12th grade and is a total of 737 pages, which I think is maybe equivalent to like at least a few seasons of a television show. So it was very similar in that sense to TV, but yes, the collaborative aspect is very different. The thing about television writing, a lot of people, you know, will ask me like, how does it work? And people were like, well, does one person like write for each character, or do you know, like there's sort of a lot of confusion about how it actually works. And the way it does work is like 6 or 7 writers sit in a room and sort of talk about what they think could happen over the season, and then those ideas get posted up on a bulletin board, and then they're broken down, and each writer then writes a synopsis, and then a different writer writes an outline based on that synopsis, and then a different writer writes a script based on the outline based on the synopsis, and then a different writer rewrites the script based on the outline based on the synopsis, and then another writer rewrites it again, and then the boss like rewrites everybody at the end. So it's definitely.
How do you ever get anything done?
Well, you're on like a really tight production schedule, so it's just sort of like nonstop. But it's sort of like it's, you know, someone's name will be attached to an episode, but it's more like you can say, oh, I came up with this story idea, or I wrote this joke, or I, you know. Yeah,
what are you in various roles throughout the process, or do you usually stick to one?
Do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, and then in comics, you just get to sit in your room and get cabin fever.
Are you famous now?
No.
Are you do you hobnob with the rich and famous?
I've dabbled.
So do you you feel like that experience and working in that arena, do you think it's affected your goals as a comics creator? Do you think you have bigger aspirations now?
Well, it definitely had a big effect on me in terms of writing fiction, because before the L Word, I'd only really written autobiography, and there's something really sort of magical about fiction that I hadn't been aware of, which is that you know, the idea that you're going to write something that you had no idea existed before. So in autobiography, it's like, okay, I'm going to take all these facts and all these funny little things and sort of edit and craft them into something, and that's great. But then with fiction, the thing that's sort of amazing that happens is you sit down to write something, and 10 minutes later, something has come out that you had no idea existed, and you can sort of look back after you've written it and be like, oh, well, this is probably based on this thing that happened to me in 3rd grade or whatever. But it really feels like it's coming sort of from nowhere, which is exciting. So it's made me want to write more fiction. That's awesome.
So I wanted to ask a question, and people can chime in if they want. Just jump in. Just elbow your way to the front of the line. Do you feel that that a queer identity informs your work, or that looking through that enables you to see a larger picture that you wouldn't be able to see otherwise? Or do you not notice that, or what are your thoughts on a queer perspective?
I'll go first because my queer identity and my work actually have very little to do with each other. Probably the least of anyone here. And I've always tried to, and also not one to kind of be flaming about my sexuality. Although once you talk to me for about 10 minutes, you kind of pick up on it. I like infiltrating mixed crowds and then all of a sudden kind of dropping a little bombshell kind of thing. And whether it's in my day job as a veterinarian or whatever, I try to be the veterinarian who happens to be queer, or the manga translator that happens to be queer, and not necessarily the queer manga writer. But I've kind of done my share in terms of, I also, when I have time, work as an interpreter at anime conventions and so forth in the Northeast. And one of the organizations I really try to support is YuriCon, which is a convention for Yuri manga, which is manga written for women, by women, about women who like other women. And I'm really good friends now with Erica Friedman, who is both the con chair of YuriCon as well as the publisher of ALC Publishing, which is Yuri, the first and the only solely dedicated to Yuri manga and Yuri writing publisher in the United States. And so that's where I really get to put my queer hat on and party. But I've been trying by introducing my friends, both queer and straight, to Yuri manga and Yuri anime. In general, there's more and more coming out, both in Japan and thankfully now in the United States. Some mainstream companies have started putting out stuff like Media Blasters. So it's really nice to know that the only girl on girl action is not the 21 plus, really erotic, tentacled monster made by straight men and some straight women for straight male audiences type of stuff. Which, not that there's no need for that either, but at least there's all sorts of stories even about everyday lesbians in Japanese and translated into English for American audiences.